Welcome to the first installment of Virtual Fables. Unfortunately, we can't come to you live from the main stage today because, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic and nobody pandemics well, and that includes storytellers. Elle Stevens joins us here at Virtual Fables, and Elle is a person that we had tried to get to tell a story a couple of times and turned us down, but she said the only way that she would ever tell a story from the Fables main stage was if she could do it from her greenhouse in her backyard. So here we are. Those two worlds have collided to create this perfect storm. And so we're going to talk to Elle a little bit this evening, and she's going to tell her story about what it was like not to be a mommy blogger. Elle, welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
And shout out to coronavirus for allowing this to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. But you'll hear birds chirping. It sounds very serene and relaxing where you are. So that's good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just stuffed in a closet. That's my reality with a light right in front of me.
I mean, that's nice too, yeah. I guess.
It's not as nice as your greenhouse, I am sure. But if you're ready to go, Elle, we're going to talk about Elle. For those of you that don't know, had a blog called Juicebox Confessions about being a mommy with newborn children, and how she discovered that she wasn't actually a mommy blogger. So if you are ready to go, I'll turn the camera over to you.
I gave birth to my first child in 2010, with pregnancy happening and this impending huge life change. I decided to do what other people in my shoes were doing, and I started a blog. I documented the weirdness of pregnancy and the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs. And then when the baby came, I wrote about that. Was really having fun with it. And my following was growing, and I had readers that I didn't actually know. Like, I thought, maybe my mom and my sisters would read it, and that would be good enough for me. But thanks to social media, I slowly amassed thousands of readers, which was like a dream come true. Like, I couldn't believe it. One of those readers was a fellow mommy blogger. And she was doing videos. She was doing this project where she was getting grants. I believe she was traveling around the country. I'm not positive about that detail, but I knew that she was coming to Dover, Vermont, on a grant to do this series of stories from mommy bloggers, basically. And she reached out to me, and I, without any hesitation or delay, said, absolutely not. Thank you very much. Next. But she persisted and said, no, but I really like your content, and I think you'd be great for this. The problem is that I'm not very good at verbally telling my stories. I'm a good writer. I'm a decent writer. But that's after, 14,000 edits and late nights and other people reading my stuff and making me sound good. Nobody is filtering telling my story, and I was expected to go to this place in Dover and sit and tell a story. It was a story interview hybrid. So I told her I'd think about it, and I started asking around, and everybody I talked to was like, do it. You have to do it. This is such an amazing opportunity. Like, how fun. Exposure, which I think is one of the most ridiculous things ever in the world of blogging. I'm not sure if it's still like this, but people will offer you opportunities for exposure. And all I could think of was, exposure is not going to pay these bills, but okay. So I said yes. And my big hesitation also was that this was going to be a comedy. I didn't do comedy, where some of my content was funny because, let's be honest, being a parent can be hilarious and weird and just absurd. But it can also be heartbreaking and hard and exhausting. And my content, my platform was to be real and share the parts of motherhood and parenthood that I hadn't really read before, because I felt like I wasn't your typical mommy blogger. But I said yes, and when the day came, I hopped in my car with my young child. I think she was maybe 1.5 at this point, and my partner. We drove out to Dover to this absolutely beautiful house. This place was, as I tell people, the only local who had ever been in there went in there to clean it or do repairs. Locals did not stay at this house. This was for out-of-state skiers and visitors. So went in, felt sick to my stomach, and as soon as I stepped in, I was like, I don't belong here. I should back up. When we pulled in next to like some pretty high-end New York plate vehicles. We were driving a 1990 Volvo 240. This thing, like, it smelled like gas most of the time because it was just returning to the earth slowly. And I loved this car. Like, I loved it. It was who we are. Like, it made sense to us. So I knew, like, I just felt like a fish out of water. But I went in, and everybody was so nice and immediately offered me a glass of wine, to which I said no thank you, because one of the many things that made me feel like the outcast of mommy bloggers was that I don't drink. And explaining it to people was always super awkward. People would say, like, what do you mean you don't drink? And I didn't want to go into, my torrid family history of why I don't drink. So I would just say, no, thank you. And the person who offered me the drink said, oh, okay, you don't drink wine. Would you like a beer instead? And I said, no, I don't drink. And she was like, well, I guess maybe we can find you some water. Thank you. So she got me a wine glass of water, set me up on this couch with all these lights and a camera, and said, we're just going to start asking you questions and we're going to film it. And I knew that, like, she was saying, like, we're going to just test the lighting and we're going to make sure that everything's all set and the framing's good. And I know what that actually means because my partner is a photographer, and I know that that's the BS line that people give to people to make them feel comfortable, when in reality, that's the material they're going to use. It's not going to be the stage stuff. So I immediately was not comfortable. So she just started off, like, what's your name? How old are your children? And then she asked me the one question that I fear the most, and said, tell me your funniest parenting story, just on the spot. And I get what I like to call record store syndrome, where, like, as I'm on my way to the music store, I love all music and I can't wait to buy everything. But the second I walk in, I hate music, I hate all artists, and I don't listen to anything. It's that, like, my mind goes blank, and, leading up to this, everything's funny. And then I was asked, and my answer was, and honestly, I don't even remember what I said. I stuttered through the rest of the interview. Just, like, I don't even think I was forming coherent thoughts or sentences. I bombed hard. At one point, I remember looking up into the eyes of the cameraman and the woman doing the interview, and I've never seen such looks of disinterest and uncomfortableness in real life. I felt like at any point somebody was going to jump out and be like, we're just kidding. Isn't this hilarious? But instead they were like, okay, thank you so much. We'll be in touch when the video's done. And I remember thinking, like, yeah, sure. Okay, like, I'm just glad this is over with. So I laughed, and as I laughed, a fellow mommy blogger, a fellow blogger that I knew from the area had pulled up because she was next. And she's hilarious. And I knew that she would, like, end up being the headliner for this thing. And she was like, how'd you do it? I was like, oh my God, I bombed so bad. Like, if this was on actual film, I think they would have just ripped it from the camera and thrown it away. And both her and my partner were like, no, you were hilarious. I'm sure it was great. You're just self-conscious. And I was like, no, seriously, like, this was terrible. So we went home, and I had posted on my social media about doing it. And so I posted again, just being like, this was like, I bombed. Do not expect to ever see this footage. And, you know, thanks for all your support, but let's move on from this and never mention it again. And of course I got, you know, 50 to 100 comments of all those like niceties and those platitudes that like I realized at that moment that I'm severely allergic to, like, oh, I'm sure you did great. Or if you put your mind to it, I'm sure it worked out. And, you know, like, you're awesome. We love you, which is really sweet and kind. But like, I'm a practical person. Like, I bombed. It was awful. And, you know, I should have really, in that moment, I realized like maybe I should have trusted my gut. But instead, I was listening to everybody who was being so kind and nice. So anyway, weeks go by and I hadn't really thought about it much other than like it was a good punchline to a joke when I didn't want to do something. Somebody would be like, you want to come over or you want to do this? And I'd be like, I would, but I'll freeze in front of a video. So no. And like, I tried to put it out of my mind. And then I fired up Facebook and there was the video. My friend who I had seen in the driveway had posted the video and was like, it's up, I'm so excited. And it's like, I hadn't heard anything, but I honestly hadn't expected to. So I held my breath and watched it. And when I got to the end, I couldn't help but laugh hysterically. And then I shared it to Facebook and said, here's that video I did, and waited. And the comments started rolling in going, but where were you? And so I just watched it twice and I didn't see you. And later I posted again and said, that's the point. Like, I did so badly and none of you believed me. Like, I am not a mommy blogger. This is not who I am. Like, I am the one who talks about mental health and who, you know, like talks about homeschooling my kids with no curriculum except for like go outside and eat some dirt. Like, that's me. I'm not a mommy blogger. I don't, you know, make lunches from Pinterest boards, and I don't drink wine with my girlfriends, and I don't drive a minivan, and I don't go to soccer practice, and I don't write really amazing, hilarious posts on my blog. That's just not who I am. And there is a niche for me, and I've found it more so now that I'm not a mommy blogger at all. But even then, that really cemented it for me. And so yeah, 3 kids and almost 10 years later, and I'm still saying no and doing things anyways. Hopefully this will not end up on the virtual cutting room floor. Yeah, thank you for humoring me and listening to my rambling.
No, it was great. No, seriously, I think there's always 2 sides to everything, and I often say to my wife when we're talking about the kids, I give them what they want, you give them what they need, and that's what you've done. You're giving them what they need.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for coming on the virtual stage from the Next Stage Theater and telling your story to the folks in Fablesland.
Thank you to you, and thank you to the folks in Fablesland, and thanks for making my stage be my greenhouse. That was a lot less scary.
It's awesome. Chirping birds, plants in the background. What's not to love, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.